Well, howdy there, Internet people, it's Belle again. So today, we're going to talk about Trump's international weakness on full display. Two U.S. allies have found themselves in situations that would seem implausible just a few years ago, and it's no surprise that it's happening right now. We've talked repeatedly about how Trump's vision of foreign policy strength doesn't actually line up with reality. We've pointed out that going it alone doesn't work, and that proclaiming strength and simply rebranding with a tougher name doesn't intimidate the world. We've talked about how Trump defunding foreign aid undercut American soft power, which in turn undercuts all American power. The U.S. had two allies be hit with acts of war. Russia violated Poland's, a NATO member, mind you, airspace with armed military aircraft headed to Ukraine. Qatar's capital was hit by an Israeli airstrike aimed at Hamas officials. Not just are both of these countries U.S. allies, both host U.S. military installations. Part of the trade-off for having U.S. troops present is the deterrence against attacks. The Polish Air Force and possibly NATO assets sprang into action and started downing Russian military drones violating its airspace. And let's be clear about this. This wasn't a minor incursion or a Russian drone straying off course. This was substantial enough to have disrupted operations at the airport in Poland's capital. Imagine a foreign military's air power shutting down flights in D.C. This is not a small event. Beyond that, you have NATO member forces openly engaging Russian air power. Poland has invoked Article 4 of the NATO treaty, triggering consultations about territorial integrity with other NATO nations. This comes after Russia hit a U.S. factory, the EU delegation building, the UK council building in Ukraine. Russia is pushing because it sees American power slipping. Meanwhile, Israel struck Qatar, which is a vital U.S. ally over there. They're going to be outraged by this and see it as a betrayal, as they've worked for years to mediate and now have been thanked by having their own soil hit. They have suggested retaliation against Israel, but it's unclear right now what kind of retaliation they mean. Netanyahu tried to throw a little political cover to Trump by saying the operation was a wholly independent Israeli operation. But I would be surprised if that's believed. They're central to U.S. presence in the region and central to U.S. diplomatic efforts far beyond the region, having brokered deals with Venezuela for the U.S. And speaking of Venezuela, where do you think Netanyahu got the idea that the U.S. might look the other way on a strike like this? Maybe because the U.S. hit that boat. Trump tried to assure the region that U.S. security umbrellas could still stop the rain by saying very firmly that, quote, such a thing will not happen again on their soil. Meanwhile, the Israeli ambassador to the UN indicated the country would continue to pursue those linked to Hamas in, quote, Gaza, Lebanon, or in Qatar. Under Trump's fundamentally flawed foreign policy, U.S. allies are not safe from violations of their sovereignty, not from adversarial nations, not from other U.S. allies. Just to kind of tie some stuff together real quick to show how things that get blown off as unimportant really are, I'm going to read a question I got. Quote, your video on Trump's national defense strategy is BS. He didn't say BS. You're making it sound like he's just surrendering the rest of the world to focus on South America. China and Russia are scared of Trump. They know better than to test him. If it really is what you're saying, I assume China or Russia will be emboldened. I'll be waiting for your video about China attacking Taiwan or Russia attacking Poland. I won't hold my breath, though. That document broadcast to the world that Trump's priorities we're not maintaining the alliances that made America a superpower. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.